Watch the ride.
To figure out a way to send this chain to my buddy Spicy110. He has this stuff where he takes sprockets and chains from old bikes and he makes like clocks and artwork out of them. Ooh, that would be a cool idea if I sent this to Spicy and he made a wreck bike rebuild clock. Spicy, if you see this video, let me know if that's possible, because that'd be a pretty cool clock.
This is actually from Chaseontwowheels. Yeah, obviously. This is the chain. That's got to be. Oh my god, that's rusty. So this is the video where I'm going to be making a couple of clocks for Chaseontwowheels. He does this series called Wreck Bike Rebuild, where basically he takes a old written off bike, well not old necessarily, written off bike, he fixes it up, and at the end of the process that he shows you in the video, sort of doing all the jobs, he gives it away to one of the people that supports the patron that kind of funds the whole thing. Now part of that is one person wins the bike, but there are other runner-up prizes as I understand it. And one of the things he wants to do for that is to have a clock made, because I make clocks from motorcycle parts and other bits and pieces, a clock made from the chain and sprockets from the ZX10R that he's currently working on. However, he also sent me the chain and sprockets to the Ducati Monster that he did in Wreck Bike Rebuild 1. So I'm actually making two clocks from these. Now when Chase sent me these, they were just as they came off the bike. Absolutely filthy. So the first thing I did, and I haven't filmed any of this because it's kind of boring, is I just cleaned them. It's a laborious process, degreases and steam cleaning and just trying to get all the grease and the dirt off of it. The chains are a problem of their own. As I say, there was rust on this one, which I'll get to, but this one thankfully hadn't rusted, but it was very dirty. So basically I soaked them in paraffin and then used other degreases and cleaners and stuff on them. And at this point they're clean and ready to use. The chain is in this bag because it's been cleaned and it's been sprayed with WD-40 to help penetrate even more. So this on the final clean, it should come up really nice, because I also need to get all that grease off for when I start welding. There I've got a slight concern with this one that it's got this rubber cush drive, and I'm going to have a look as to if I start welding next to this, am I going to end up melting this? If that's the case, I'm going to have to take that off. I'd rather not, because it's part of it, but if it melts it's not going to look very good and it's going to be impossible to get the rubber off once it's welded onto the chain. So yeah, I've got to see about that one. But I've got to shorten these down as well, the chains, because they're not made full length, because they actually would look ridiculous. You'll see the design that I'm doing, but if you use a full length chain like it's on a bike, you realise how stretched out it is and it just doesn't look right. Not for the clock anyway. And then the Ducati Monster ones, this has brought in a unique problem of its own. I did a clock from an MV Agusta sprocket just like this one. In fact, it looks like the exact same one. But because I don't have the bolt holes, I can't do the normal methods that I do to make those clocks. I have done a bit of prep work for this already, because as I say, this is not the most entertaining stuff, even in time-lapse form. So here is an aluminium plate that I've made, marked out the holes. I've got to drill the holes out, make that be fitted, carve out all the grooves. That, you know, that's how that one works. Then the clock mechanism goes on the back, but not this extra long one. I've got that for a reason. The way that I'm going to mount a clock in here is I've made this, which is out of plywood. I've got a brushed aluminium disc on the back. You're not even going to see that disc, it's going to be hidden on the mechanism, but it's nice to know things are finished properly. That fits into here, which is a good press fit, but I have to modify this though. You see this lip here? Basically with that lip, even with the longest spindled mechanism I have, it isn't really enough to get through. So what I'm going to have to do is grind that lip down flat. And then this goes in from the back. You know, you've got this, and then on the top side we have a special material which you'll see later on, but I'm sure you can guess what it probably is, and that then goes in there. This is chrome plated. This is a 3D chain. I hope this is going to weld okay. It should do. My welder should get through it. This one, however, I'm going to have to do some more prep work too. I think, yeah, good. It's not rusty, because this was really badly rusted. So to get it back to this, and as you should see, it's pretty flexible again and smooth. So the next stage is going to be wire wheeling this chain to get any remaining rust off from the in-between links and the rollers. and then I'm going to have to work out the overall lengths and then chop them down, and then we get to the jigging part, because I've made a jig to make this a little bit easier. One of the reasons I particularly need to wire wheel this, other than the rust, is the fact that you'll notice it's quite dark. That's because to get the rust off of this, I used vinegar, and it worked very, very well, but it does have a habit, because it's an acid, of blackening metals, but it's only really the surface, so when I go back over this, it should come out looking much more metal coloured, shiny, and a uniform, nice look to it. In theory. Well, let's see about that. Okay, so as you saw there, cleaning up nicely, and it's all free moving. There is a little bit of rust left between the links. I've got rid of most of it by wire wheeling up and down, but once this is welded in shape, then I can go back through, wire wheel it again, and use a Dremel in between all the little nooks and crannies and get rid of as much rust as I can, and then I'll be treating it with ACF 50 to try and kill that rust and stop it coming back. Once it's in a house, these things don't rust, but it's always more complicated when it came to me rusty. How big is this going to be? I have to consider two things. One, what it looks like, and two, the maximum length for the parcel I can send for the price that I have quoted, if you know what I mean. 48 and a bit, which is within my box size. So what I do to join these is I grind off the pins on the side that's going to be welded, take the plate off, take the pin apart, and re-splice it back together, and then weld the plate on the other side. It's obviously not something you can do on a motorcycle normally, but because I'm welding the whole thing together, I can. So I need to take the back off of this one, and this one needs to go entirely. So as you can see, we've taken the top of those pins off, and we need that plate because that's what we're going to weld on the other side. This is an O-ring chain, as is the other one. This is going to be a problem, and it's something I'm just going to have to deal with. Basically, obviously, when I weld this, these rings are going to melt and catch fire. It's not ideal, but there is nothing I can do about it. So we now have a continuous loop, and you can see there the link that I've joined back together. And now I need to hold this with as much tension on it as I possibly can to make sure that the chains are held straight for when I weld them, and also for when it cools down, because it can warp. It's not the end of the world, we can correct it, but the less of that the better. But now you can see what I'm getting at here. It's rigid because it's being tensioned by this, it's been held on this. This is basically when it's changed. I had to put a bigger bolt through so it actually hold it strong. And yeah, I can keep adding tension onto it, and it will keep it in place when I'm welding it. So the jig works. So now all I've got to do is shorten the other chain, give them a quick clean to get as many oils off as I possibly can, and then we've got to welding them. This looks like some sort of very crude weapon. It's got a jabby bit, it's got a bashy bit. I've also realised I'm going to have to cut off this rubber ring. This is basically like a cush drive, so when the chain touches the front sprocket, it sort of bears itself onto the actual rubber, not onto the metal surfaces so much, so it sort of puts a bit of give in it. Well anyway, I need to weld onto this. Not only is that in the way, it's also going to melt when it gets hot, so I've got to get a Stanley knife and just go around it and cut it off, which is not easy because this is the hardest rubber you've ever known. This rubber is always difficult to get off. Okay, so we've got that half off, and now I want to find out what's going to happen if I weld on it. Yeah, this hasn't got that much heat protection in it. If I, oh god, it stinks. If I weld on this side, it's going to melt the other side, so I'm going to have to take the other side off as well, and then wire wheel out this inside bit, because there's going to be tunnels going in between each side, so there should be holes all the way around in this. Okay, you see what I mean? You start with this rubber ring, and then we cut it off and you're left with that, and then you have to wire wheel it, and then I'm going to have to drill through these holes to get that out. And then have to get the other side off and clean it all up. It has to be done because that's going to melt otherwise. quite some time later, we have finally got all the rubber off, got it out of the holes, and I actually think it looks pretty cool still. Okay, let's bring you up to date. I have now shortened the other chain, the one for the Monster clock, and just made sure it all fits up, and as you can see, this is from the Ducati Monster, and it's all going to work out. So the next stage is welding these chains up, but first I need to clean them. I think I'm going to steam clean them with a steam cleaner. I'm probably going to soak them in some acetone for a couple of minutes and then steam clean them again. I really want to get every scrap of grease off this chain as physically possible, because it will interfere with the welds. I've also got to take this collar down, and I might just do that now. As you can see, I've now taken that collar off. That went pretty well. Well, that was a lot more work than I was expecting it to be, but thankfully the rollers were spinning, so I was able to clean all over the rollers from one direction. That was very satisfying. So I'm going to give these a steam clean to get all of the grime that's left in them, try and blast out the O-rings as much as I possibly can, and then make sure they dry nice and quickly, which the heat helps with anyway. And the next thing I think I'm going to do is just finish the back plate for the ZX10 clock. And then we'll weld the chains, and then there'll be a bit more work after that to clean up, and then build the clocks, and well, they'll be done. Okay, so I've steam cleaned them. I've done everything I can possibly do to clean these chains to get the oils out for when I weld them. So that's coming up. But before I do that, this is the plate that's going to go in this clock, and as you can see, it's going to have to be trimmed down. So what I'm now going to do is I've already marked it all out. I use a template system that I've come up with, and I'm basically going to drill out the holes, put it in with the bolts, and then I'll mark off what I need to cut out, and then I'll go around with a Dremel and I'll basically shape the aluminium disc so everything is hidden behind here but the plate's still there. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with that now. Okay, well that's the edges deburred, so now I just need to fit this onto here. Right, so now I need to mark out all these little sections and then use the Dremel to grind them away. I won't be taking out this loop and keeping this little stud in the middle or anything like that. I'll just keep them into very simple loops out, so you just remove the whole lot that's behind. All that's important is there's pieces that come out here, and then there's enough behind the ring that it all works out. So let's get on to that. If you're not a regular viewer of mine, you might come over from Chase. Hello. I basically have been a motovlogger for nearly 7 years now. I'm one of the largest vloggers in the UK, but our market is so tiny that I still have a small channel. But yeah, making these clocks is what I now do as a day job, basically, because I am full-time on YouTube, but the money from it just doesn't, as we English might say, butter many parsnips. That means there's not a lot of it. So I had an idea when I was about 12 of making things out of old bike parts, and basically I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And I did that about 9 months ago, something like that. I've made over 40 clocks, a couple of sculptures, and I also sell these keychains made from motorcycle chains, which obviously is a bit of a unique direction for a YouTuber. I mean, I know people go through making more merch and stuff like that, but not physically themselves making more merch. Well, this isn't merch. As much as my subscribers are the people that buy these clocks, I don't see these as merch. These are, you know, something I make and I sell to them. They are what they are. They're handmade pieces of, in some people's eyes, art. the rough shape is there. I've got to do some sanding on it. As you can see, you can't see it anymore. Plate fits nicely. I need to do a brushing technique on the aluminium and lacquer it, but I won't do that yet. I'm going to go straight on now to welding the chains together and actually building the clocks in the jig. Okay, this should work out because I checked before. Got a nut and a couple of washers under here. When it's tightened up, should hold it level. Close enough. Once it's welded, I can actually put a little bit of flex in it and bend it because the welds will be strong enough to do that. But as you can see, this is now tight. I actually want it a little bit tighter. Right. The reason I've got it in the jig, other than it helps hold it in one position, is that as it cools down, it's going to want to warp. And hopefully, if I do it in one go and the whole thing heats up, as it cools down, it shouldn't warp too much. I can fix warps, it's not a problem. You know, this is the wonderful thing about welding, it's you can add and remove as much as you need. Well, I haven't cleaned this nearly as much as the chain I'm actually using. But I'm just going to use some acetone and clean it up best I can, because I want to check my wire speed and voltage on this chain, and to see if it's going to get through this chromium coating before I try it on the real thing. So I've just cleaned that with some acetone. But this is, well, they're O-ring chains anyway, so it's going to smoke loads. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay, we have a problem. This chain's non-conductive. Yep, nothing. That's not what I expected. I may have to wire wheel this chain, which is a shame because I like the colour of it. But I don't know if there's going to be any other option. I mean, it'll only be on the back side, so it won't matter that much. Let's just try that. Well, that was a relief. Right, now I'm going to put this weld in a vise and I'm going to try and break it. Please excuse the slight intermission, but I've got something to show you. I make keychains like this out of bike chains. Cool little things. It's got like your house keys or something. It's cool it's made out of a real bike chain. I literally take bike chains and chop them up, and then there's lots of cleaning and stuff, and then you get a keychain at the end of it, and it helps support me and my channel. Well, I had some chains left over from Chase's chains, and I said, hey, why don't I make some keychains out of them? Say I send you some of them, can I sell the remainder of my store? And Chase was like, definitely, do it. So I have available to you, because I've already sent Chase his, 5 from the Ducati build, and I have 7 from the current ZX10R build. So if you fancy owning a piece of one of the rep bikes, whether that be the Ducati build or the ZX10R build, then pop over to my Etsy store, links in the description, and grab one of these. As I say, this is literally all I have. When they're gone, and they can never come again because they won't exist. So as I say, links in the description. I jump on it because these will sell pretty quickly, and thank you very much for the support if you do choose to buy one, whether that be to help me, or to own a piece of something that Chase worked on, or a bit of both, whatever. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to use the angle grinder with the wire wheel on it, and I'm just going to go all over the back of this chain, because we need to get that cleaned up really good to get good penetration. Okay, so I've wire wheeled the outside of it. I am concerned that continuity might not get through, because obviously these are little islands of continuity now, but I think that the pins between where they'll be worn will give good connectivity between the whole chain. As long as it gets onto the top through, it will be in for the top surface. That it should work. Well, it works. That's good news. It is setting fire to every single link because there is a rubber O-ring in there, or in fact one either side, which is melting and catching fire. There is nothing I can do about this. I've done it before, and it does work out being a strong weld still, but I do check the welds and fix any that need going back over. my new work surface doesn't look so new. Went over it with the angle grinder, with the Dremel. I really dug into any holes because, as I say, where you have the gassing, you get some holes. But I've dug those right out, and now I'm going back over with a lower power just to try and melt everything down in. It's strong. I've really given it a good. I've taken it out and given it a good flex, and it's not going anywhere. To come out straight. Or straight enough. There is a very slight bend in it, but it's actually, it does have flex in it, because obviously only where one side is welded, the other side can still move a little bit. But the strength is there. That's all it has to do, is hold itself together. So if I can't make it break doing that, we're good enough. But I do have quite a lot of cleanup now. Okay, so I've now jigged up the Monster chain, and I'm now going to weld this and get it to the same point as the ZX10R chain. And basically, I won't show you too much of that because it will just be a repeat of what you saw before, and you can't see what I'm doing when I'm welding much anyway, so I'm just going to get on. If you're a normal subscriber of mine, I have to say I am feeling so happy with my back that I'm now able to get on and do work and not in too much pain. This should actually be easier to weld because the links are closer together. It's not chromium covered, it's proper steel. So I'm going to try a slightly lower power, slightly lower feed rate, and see if I can be a bit neater on the first pass and get deep into it still. Well, that seemed to work okay. It's an O-ring chain, so it's going to catch fire like the other one. But yeah, let's just get on. Just had to shoot down the shop and get a new wire wheel. These things don't last 5 minutes. That's just been welded and wire wheeled once just to see what it looks like, and I'm going to take it out to see how strong it is. Whoops. Oh, this seems pretty good. And that's solid, that's good. Because it was better steel, I got better welds. We'll clean them up very slightly, but yeah, that's good. I'm very pleased with that. So I'll take the die grinder, clean up any edges, make sure they're not protruding out, any sharp points or anything like that. I did that on the other one, I forgot to mention that. I go over it with my hands and I find every sharp edge and I smooth it out. Because if anyone's going to get cut on it, it will be me and then no one after me. Okay, I made a bit of a mistake I'm having to sort out. If you notice that you got all the normal chain links, the one that I ground and should have had this basically in the other way around, I put it on backwards. It's not a huge problem because what I'm going to have to do is I've taken the plate off this side. I'm now going to have to cut the welds this side, take a piece of chain out of the chain itself, the original extra we got, and put a piece in and weld it in. It'll be fine. It's just very annoying. Right, now I'm just going to quickly grind a link out of this. That goes there. Right, just going to have to quickly re-weld those two. Boom, problem solved. Sorted. See, it belonged on this side, not that side. That was because you've already got a rivet link there, but the original rivet link, because I left that in, so I thought it'd be a nice little detail. But yeah, we certainly didn't want that on the front. And this is really hot still. Okay, so where are we? Well, these are basically done. They're welded, they're cleaned. The hands have been painted. I'm doing red for both. The Ducati seemed right to do red, even though it wasn't. Didn't the Monster end up being black? But it started out red, and red's the same colour as needles on a clock, so it works. And we're doing red for the Kawasaki one as well for the same thing. It, you know, represents the needles on the clock. There's the back of it, by the way. You can see what I've done is I've welded each individual one, and also put tabs on around the sprockets, so it's all very solid. Same with this one. I've just spent about 2.5 hours tidying up the garage, getting all my tools all reorganised in boxes, just getting everything back the way it should be. It's nice to do that mid-project sometimes, because you get into a bit of a mess when you need all these different tools. Sometimes it's good to just take a minute, tidy, restock, get everything in order. It gets annoying because I packed this way about half an hour ago, but it's just so much easier if everything's back where it was supposed to be once. And then get it all back out again, but only the bits you need. I was considering using brass ones because they're softer, but I'm actually going to go for a steel brush because I've noticed these brass ones can actually leach a bit of brass off. It ends up looking like a bronze coloured stain on the metal itself. Right. The key to these little brushes I've found is don't run them too fast. Right, I might glue this in now so this sets. Basically what I made, I actually ended up making 2 of these. It's some plywood with an aluminium disc on the back to just give a backing plate. You're not even going to see this, but it's just so you don't see the wood. I mean, it's good quality wood, but yeah, whatever. That is 1 point something millimetres off centre. I don't know if you can notice, but I could, so I had to do it all over again. Now, what's the back? That's going to be the back. So basically, this is made to fit, and it's a good fit. Right there. It needs to fit flat though. And then this disc goes on top. But I need to make sure it's the right height. The reason I'm using epoxy rather than like super glue is because it gives me a little bit more working time. I've got a good layer all the way around. This has got to go in that way. There. You can probably guess what this is. It's carbon fibre, but it's just protected on the other side. I have sealed the edges of this using super glue because that's something you should do. If you ever cut carbon fibre, you should always seal the edges because you'll get water ingress and then you get delamination. So it's very important to make sure you do that. Now, I'll just put it back in. I need to glue this in as well. As I mentioned before, I have done one of these types of sprockets before that doesn't have any bolt holes because it's designed to go on a carrier or it's got some other method of attaching. And I was completely stumped before, and then when Chase sent me this one, I didn't know he was actually, I didn't realise he was sending me this sprocket, and I was like, oh no, I can't make a clock, and I was like, no, I'll have to just work out a way, and that's why I ended up having to grind the back off it and finding the longest spindle clock I could and coming up with this idea. But it works, it should be pretty nice when it's done. Right, well that needs to be left a good while to set. The hands are still drying, so I should probably do the faceplate, brush the aluminium on that, lacquer that and the hands, and then that'll be it for today, and then I'll pick up again tomorrow and put the final bits together. What you might not have realised is this has been taking place over the course of about 4 or 5 days, just because I've been able to do it in between other stuff, and a lot of the stuff I did at the beginning that you didn't see unfortunately was because I had a lot of problems with my back and I was just coming in here for an hour when I could, and I was not really in the mood to be chatting. That's the time to the rescue again. It's between those two, so that is up. I've had these under a light, and as you can see, they've come up pretty nice. I lacquered them as well, just to make sure they're scratch resistant. It's the same reason, or part of the reason why I lacquer these aluminium plates after I hand brush them, because one, any oily fingerprints on it will show up, and also if you brush against it the wrong way it leaves a mark, but if you put the lacquer on it, it protects it really well. And I've actually tested this by spraying some aluminium, basically doing a little section and doing that and then trying to scratch it, and it really stands up well. Okay, so I'm going to give these a couple of coats of clear lacquer. I'll let the resin on that dry. So tomorrow, there's nothing we have to wait on, and we can just put it all together. Okay, let's bring you up to date. These have actually been completely stripped and repainted. I painted them and it seemed okay, but there was a couple of flaws in it. I didn't like it, so I just stripped them off with some acetone, repainted, re-lacquered. This has been lacquered 2 or 3 times because of problems. It just wasn't right, and I will keep doing it until it's right. It's not hard to take it off, but it's now fine, and it's been set curing all night, so it's definitely set now. See? So all there is left to do now is just to basically put these together, apart from the carbon fibre in here needs a hole drilling through it, but it's nice and easy because the hole already exists in the back. I'm trying to decide which I'm going to do first. I'm going to do this one first, because I've got to drill this hole in this carbon fibre, and I don't like doing that because it chips. Hopefully this will go fine. Moment of truth. Okay, that's fine. There isn't any chipping, there's a few little edges, but I'm just now going to put some super glue around that inside edge very carefully to seal that inside part. We can all go wrong at this point. Actually, let's be smart about this. Haha! There we go. Right, I'll wipe that off. Put this off of there. Peel this off immediately. Yep, that's coated it nicely. I'm going to have to give that a couple of minutes just to set, because I don't really want to glue the mechanism in. You always have to bend these hands just a little bit. In fact, when you receive a clock from me, you may have to adjust the hands if they've been bent in transit. I actually build up all sorts of ingenious ways of protecting them so they don't get hit by anything, but they could be bent by force. And there we go, the monster clock is done. The way these hang on the wall is you just get one of those 90-degree hooks that's just, you know, like a straight bar along and up. And then you put that in the wall, and then you just hook it in the middle, and there is a balance point. You always find it around the point of the sprocket. It's actually here on this, so you hook it through there, and then it just sits on a wall. I will do a shot of it, well, I'll show you some photographs of them as they should sit, but yeah, that is done. I do need to work out some way of signing this though. I guess I'll have to do it into the sprocket itself, because normally I use the aluminium plate, but I don't have one to work with, so I'll have to sign in the back of that. From this angle it looks like this is slightly off of where it should be, but when it hangs it actually straightens out, and that does become true top. Also I've noticed, and I can't unsee this now, that looks like a turtle. It's got like its shell and its head and its flippers. Yeah, okay. And now for the current wrecked bike rebuild bike clock. This one from the ZX10. Okay, so when we hit the mark in the back, I know that that is up, which puts it there. Which means, oh no, first things first. This, ignore the acetone and spray paint splodge from where I stripped my hands. This is very important. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to freshen this back up. So that's now in, so all I've got to do now is repeat the process I did on the other one and fit a clock mechanism in it. But they're inside, so I've got to go and grab one. And there we go, it's done. Just going to quickly show you what these look like running, because this is what's nice about them. They don't tick, and the second hand just progresses continuously. It's literally, I can just hear it if I put my ear up to it. I hate ticking clocks. And there we go, they're both done. This is from the Ducati Monster, so season 1, so I've signed this one C2W WBR S1, and then Ducati Monster Spicy110 2018, and then CO.001, commission number 1. I've started a new set of serial numbers because these are now commissions. I have a clocks designation, which I'm up to clock 44 or something like that. I have a sculpture, which I'm up to 2. Display item, which is like D, I think I've done about 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. But the commissions, I've never done a commission before. So these have got the special designation of CO001 and CO002. I've signed this one with C2W, Red Light Reroll, you know, and ZX10R, just so people know what they are. So all I've got to do now is pack these up nice and safely, get them in a box, back to America, back to Chase, so he can give them away when he does his giveaway, which he should be doing around now, because I'm releasing the video about the same time, I believe. If you're interested in buying one of my clocks, if you look on my Etsy store, links in the description, you'll see all the ones that I've currently got available, and I'll add them periodically, sort of a few every month, so just have a look on there and see the one you want. And you can also look in the past sold items, I think, and then you can see all the old ones that I've made if you're interested, to just see what I've done in the past. There's also other ways of supporting this channel. If you check out the links in the description, it'd be really appreciated. Anyway, thank you for watching, as I say. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not. Leave a like on the video, that'd be awesome. And I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.